last video, I demonstrated various ideas for improvising over a 2-5-1 chord progression in a major key. But you'll have noticed that every time I got to chord 1, I stopped at the beginning of the bar. And that was because I wanted to wait until this video to specifically talk about ideas for improvising over chord 1, including the use of what we call the Bebop major scale. By the way, if you haven't done so already and you find these videos useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you. So the default scale to improvise with over a major chord 1 is simply the major scale. So if we're improvising over C major 7, just a C major scale, which is also referred to as an Ionian mode, but you'll probably just know it as a C major scale. Now, if you're playing an improvised line in eighth notes and you start the line on a downbeat on a chord note, then we come across the same problem that we had with the Mixolydian mode over a dominant seventh chord, that you will get notes that clash on the downbeat, on the strong part of the beat. And in the major scale, the one that really jars is the fourth note of the scale, in this case F. You hear how that clashes badly. So the way you get round that is the same as we did with the Mixolydian mode. That is, we add an extra note. And in the major scale, the extra note is added in between the fifth and the sixth. So it now becomes this. And you see that all the chord notes now fall on the downbeats. We call this scale the Bebop major scale. And by the way, notice that for this purpose, we're counting the chord notes as 1, 3, 5 and 6, not 7. Now, just like the Bebop dominant scale over a dominant seventh chord, as long as you start on a chord note, you can go up or down as far as you like, keep changing direction as much as you like, and all the chord notes will fall on the downbeats. So, for instance, you could go... or you could go... Okay, so as well as using the Bebop major scale, we can use arpeggios. Now, just as we did with chords 2 and 5, we can extract pairs of arpeggios from the major seventh chord to create the feeling of forward movement. So available arpeggios, or possible ones, are, first of all, C major 7 itself, of course. And starting on the third of the C major 7 chord, we could have, on its own, that just looks like an E minor 7 chord. In terms of a C major 7 chord, E is the third, G is the fifth, B the seventh, and D is the ninth. Theoretically, we could use one starting on the fifth, but I'd give it a miss for now because we've got this F which clashes. I'm also going to include an arpeggio starting on the sixth, and on its own that is an A minor 7 arpeggio. Again, theoretically, we could have one starting on the seventh, which on its own is a B minor 7 flat 5 or B half diminished seventh chord. But again, I'd give it a miss for the time being. It clashes badly. So of the available arpeggios, a good choice is to have E minor 7 going to A minor 7. So if you just played those two chords in a chord progression, it sounds strong. It's a good chord progression because the root from E minor 7 goes down a fifth to the root of A minor 7. And a down a fifth chord progression is the strongest and most commonly used chord progression in jazz. And it gives this feeling of movement. Even though we're playing over a static C major 7, if you outline the E minor 7 in the improvised line followed by an A minor 7, it gives this feeling of propelling forward. So let's look at what I actually did in the introduction when we got to C major 7, I started by going up an E minor 7 arpeggio. And in the second half of the bar, I outlined an A minor 7 arpeggio. Put a triplet in there. And then I went up to the note A and came down a little bit of the Bebop major scale, just ending up with a couple of chord notes. And you can see that works really well. So by this combination of using the Bebop scale and arpeggios, we can come up with some really interesting ideas. Experiment with this yourself, see how many different patterns you can come up with, and also, crucially, listen to as much bebop as you can. Even try transposing solos. Try and find some that are fairly easy to transpose to begin with, because that's the way you're going to really get the feel of bebop playing. Okay, in the next video, I'm going to talk about how to start this line on a non-chord note. See you in the next video.